Dave Marsh, iGolf TV, back once again. Now I've explained a video to you on the range where I was showing you how to use the box and we were talking about alignment. Now after I used the box out on the golf course for some time, I realized that actually this was a part of the game that I wanted to look at on the putting green as well. I realized that my alignment was very inconsistent at times and my width of stance and all these different elements. I also noticed that when I stood on a right to left putt, I would pretty much be aligned very square. But yet when I stood on a left to right putt, my stance would get very open. Now this was something that I observed in my own game, and then when I looked into it even further, it even was happening with some of the better players that I was coaching, even guys that were playing on the tour, especially on these left to right putts. So it really got me thinking, how can we improve this alignment? And you know that I've talked to you about interior, physical and integration. Now we're actually going to integrate these two systems of alignment. By setting up correctly, we're able to let go even more, and that's how we get the physical and the interior integration working. So what I've actually done is I've created a box. Now it's not the most salubrious looking piece of equipment, but ultimately I'm all about how can we improve your golf game. And the nice thing about this practice aid is you can actually go ahead and make it yourself, and you can make it custom designed to your actual putting stroke. We can also tweak a couple of things to set it up so your putting stroke is as square as possible. Now the first thing is how I set it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a driver and I'm going to measure a driver from the grip to the club head distance away. So again, I can practice the same distance over and over again. So once I laid that into position, I've now got the correct distance. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put the box down, and now obviously I need to align it correctly. Now this putt is going to be about 4.5 feet and it's slightly right to left. So obviously I'm now going to line this first line here at the right edge of the hole. Now it's very important to get the right alignment. So this is what I do, is I won't fasten the box to the ground right now. I'll just set a ball into position. I won't even touch the box because I don't want to move it, and I'll just roll a putt down there to see whether or not it looks as if it's the right angle. So there it looks as if I just need to move the box slightly to the right, only a tiny bit. I can also come in behind and check that line there. Now I can see that line is going slightly at the right edge, just inside. Now this putt is a little bit downhill, so I'm not going to race the putt. So then once again, I can make sure that I set up correctly here and I just roll one down there. Now we can see that's a better line. Even though that putt wasn't struck very firmly, it still was able to stay in the hole. Now I'd take 4 tees, and you'll see how to build this putting alignment aid yourself, but I'll take 4 tees and I'll just be careful with the way that I put them in the ground first of all, so I don't disturb this line that I've set up. Now from there, I'm just going to give it one more check to see that it hasn't moved. That's good. And now I'll just take my putter and I'll just tap these in. Right, this will now hold it perfectly in line. Now the final thing that I do is I'll take my finger and I just create a small indentation right in the middle of the alignment there. So when I set the ball into position, I know that it's going to be perfectly aligned. So you can see there that I've got the red line right against the black line, and then when I set up and I take my position, I've already got my feet marks, you can see. So now I'm standing the correct distance from the ball each time. Now when I set up from here, my putter now is right on the black line that I've designed on the putting aid, and also it's right against that red line. Now from here I can begin to start to make some strokes and just get a feeling for how solid my putting stroke is there. Now you can see, obviously I hold that putt, but what I'm looking for is I'm looking to get away from any technical thoughts. I know full well that now I'm aimed correctly, so that's the first thing I'm going to do when I roll the first couple of shots. But you can see how meticulously I'm lining up my feet here. I'm making sure that I don't get my feet over the edge of the lines. Then once again, now the cool thing about this is not only is my club face pointing perfectly, but also my body is in the same position. So from here, I'm just going to release the putter, and in the shot goes. Now what I do on this particular drill is I'll hit quite a few putts from this area first of all. I always start close to the hole, and I'm going to get my feeling for what my stroke is like. Now, after I've hit some putts, what I'm trying to do is get away from thinking too much and let everything just run free. What I see definitely is an over-compulsion in the game of golf is to think too many things, have too much self-talk. And what my alignment is all about is getting to the point where we're not going to think about hardly anything. So we're set up here, we're trusting our line, and we're just pulling the trigger. You can also see how I get into the same habit as I do with the long game, and that's holding my finish. Now what's really great about this practice aid, and this is the first introduction that I'm going to give to you, is that we know each time we set up, we're set up exactly the same. We don't have any difference in our setup regarding our feet being further apart, our left foot being a bit closer to the target. We really are developing a different level of consistency, and this is why I've seen it so great. The final thing I want to talk about is you can see that the toe of the putter is touching the box. Now why do I like that so much? Well, a lot of the putting aids that I've used in the past have been along the heel, so I've been dragging the heel along, but it's actually given me a lot of guidance. It's almost given me some false help. Whereas with this, I'm actually controlling the putter or letting the putter flow on its own. So I'm developing a much more solid path. It also comes back to the same idea that I've talked about before, where it's almost as if we're opening the door and then we're closing the door. And once we do that, we're really developing this stroke that basically is inside to square to inside. And it's the most simple stroke, again, that I've figured out that we can do. Everything is about being able to let go of your technique, be able to forget about as many things as possible, and become a much more natural golfer. So that's the first introduction to the box. The putting box is going to be a real development in your game. Obviously you can go ahead and click the link at the end of this video to see how you can make one yourself, and you can custom make one yourself, which is even better. Now you've been watching iGolf TV, the place to be, where we're waking up your game.